there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern. And so, I think that people still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what that is.
There are things flying around up there that we haven't fully identified yet. And keep in mind, there are basically 1 billion galaxies in an ever-expanding universe. I mean, you can't even get your mind around the sheer number of things that are out there.
But you've seen this.
And
you've seen the data.
Well, no one knows, but I think that the probability is that there's something you would call life somewhere else.
The mission of ATIP was quite simple. It was to collect and analyze information involving anomalous aerial vehicles. What I guess in the vernacular you call them UFOs. We call them UAPs.
You know how this sounds. It sounds nutty, wacky.
Look, Bill, I'm not telling you that it doesn't sound wacky. What I'm telling you is real. The question is, what is it? What are its intentions? What are its capabilities?
So this is a Pentagon, this is a Department of Defense official saying, stop looking at UFOs because they're demonic?
Correct. He's told me, he said, Lou, I want you to stop doing this. I said, okay, sir, I certainly can, but may I ask why? And he says, well, we already know what it is. He asked me point blank, have you read your Bible lately? And I said, well, sir, I think I know what it says. Where are you going with this? And he said, well, then you would know that these things are demonic and we should not be pursuing them.
The showings of the angels or the showings of God always showed up as orbs of light or things like that. And today we see this as, we call them UFOs.
A pillar of fire at night and confused Russian troops. It has some asking, are Ukrainians receiving heavenly help?
There's some miracle happened. It looked like some spaceship, like there was like an attack from the spaceship. There was some kind of a lightnings was starting shooting from the sky, and like sparks were like spreading everywhere. And then on the morning they discovered that the whole machinery was destroyed.
The Defense Intelligence Agency has just released that program's 2010 report on UFOs. And among other things, the document tells us the government can prove that UFO sightings have caused radiation burns, paralysis, and brain damage. The report also says that some people who saw UFOs experienced, quote, perceived time suspension, saw ghosts and other spirits. In all, that report lists 42 cases of adverse effects from medical files and another 300 adverse effects from unpublished cases, whatever that means. Lou Elizondo.
My name is Matthew Roberts. I was a cryptologic technician in the U.S. Navy for 16 years. I found myself watching the footage over and over again, almost obsessively. I started to have these follow-on experiences with the phenomenon. That was like the beginning of seeing non-human entities in my room at night. Because my job was classified and I had access to classified, I was kind of aware this was not a one-off event. For the Navy, these things happen frequently. All the time. They happen all the time.
Barbara Bethalic, Whitley Strieber, both of them, before I came across one, they had interviewed people that part of what they experienced was encountering a former live relative. In other words, they were encountering a dead relative on the craft. These entities have the ability to appear in any form.
We're now less than 16 minutes away.
I was involved with occult practices for almost a full decade. And after my conversion, if you will, I felt it. I was in the kitchen by myself and I felt it come up next to me, and I said out loud, I said, God, whatever this is that's been posing as grandma for the past 7 years, in Jesus' name, get it away from me and never let it come back. And it hasn't been back since.
What do you think that was? Just a hallucination or a...
To be perfectly honest, a demon.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of ghosts, anything of that kind of sort.
You don't believe in
Aliens.
ghosts?
I don't.
Revelation 16 says these unclean spirits, they go and they perform signs and wonders. And Jesus warns in the Gospel of Luke, and it's repeated in the book of Acts, chapter 2, that there will be signs in the heavens. And a lot of people are going to be seeing things in the skies in the last days. The Bible says that in prophecy. So we need to know what the truth is, what to believe and what not to believe, because I think that evil spirits are going to use that to manipulate people in the last days.
And define what that acronym is.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Okay.
And so the government has had, and this has been in the news very recently, have had lots of trouble with this. I, in my own time, was studying this stuff at the same time in California.
Wow.
And so both of us, separately, without communicating, we're studying this and going, wow, there is something going on here.
Right.
Since this is out, it's in Congress, and they're discussing this right now. This isn't conspiracy.
Sure. Yeah,
Something
absolutely.
weird's going on here.
Absolutely. Now, I saw the little documentary you guys put together like that. It's very eye-opening.
The belief in UFOs is now a new global belief system. It's different than a religion, but it's religious-like. What they're seeing in the sky today is what they believe to be like advanced technology. Whereas 1,000 years ago, they would think maybe that's an angel or maybe that's a demon. Today, they look up and they say, well, that's a UFO. When a person has an experience, say they see a UFO, they're different afterwards. I know this sounds really strange, but the relationship to the cosmos changed for these people. Almost like a religious conversion experience. It changes their worldview, it changes the way they work, it changes their relationships to people. It fundamentally, completely changes them.
And it messes with their concept of who we are in relation to the universe.
My name is Tom DeLong. Most people know me as the founder of the popular rock and roll band called Blink-182. I started a company called To the Stars that eventually became To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. We are literally the group that is responsible for why you read about UFOs in the papers today without all the stigma.
When people start to understand more about the UFO phenomenon, the term the occult in that whole world is much more a part of the UFO phenomenon that's part of what makes it more complex than just little green men and flying saucers and tinfoil hats. And mind you, as we'll talk about this in a little bit, it's not all coming from me, it's coming from other people of the highest places. There is a very, very strong link between what people think demons are from the Bible and other religions and the UFO phenomenon. And what you have is something that doesn't like man, period, and something that feels either jealous of or has some kind of plan for what man is to be.
We passed the 11-minute mark. Now T-minus 10 minutes, 54 seconds on our countdown.
But what they're saying to us now is it's going to affect Christian belief. There is a professor for the Pope's University in Rome, and he is a very highly respected intellectual. His last name is Tanzaniti, and he has written a paper now in which he is saying that very soon, not right in the beginning, we won't have to deny our Christian faith in the beginning. But there is information coming from another world, and once it is confirmed, it is going to require a rereading of the gospel as we know it. And that's the kind of information that we are receiving from the highest levels of Vatican intelligentsia.
If you're an alien and you want to get baptized, the Pope is in favor of it.
Pope Francis reiterated his view Monday that everyone has the right to be baptized. And apparently that invite extends even to Martians.
Over the next 10 years, I have now worked with over 400 cases of people that have been able to stop the abduction experience in the name and authority of Jesus Christ. This is documented evidence.
The strategy that Wernher von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. Then terrorists would be identified. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. And the next enemy was asteroids. And the funniest one of all was against what he called alien. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie.
Are there other religions, I'm curious, David, that you know of in all the research that you've done that are more open to the idea?
Yeah, I would say there are. Hindus and Buddhists, Tibetans or whatnot. The idea of extraterrestrial life and things like that, I think they have no problem with that. And UFOs, particularly in Hindu and Buddhist tradition, they have UFOs. UFOs have been flying around for thousands of years, according to them. They call them Vimanas. They have whole texts about it. And so that's the other thing, say, with the Vatican, too, is that UFO sightings have been going on for thousands of years. Mormons as well believe in extraterrestrial life. And they are also a religion that wouldn't have any problems with that. I think a lot of, modern day religions don't have a problem with life on other planets.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
The Inspector General made a determination about the credibility of your complaint.
They found, after interviewing myself and the subjects, and other subjects that I'm not even cognizant on who they were, they found my complaint urgent and credible for the intelligence committees.
Do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly. I would couch it as non-human intelligence, NHI, like we would like to say in our language.
Why do you say that? Why do you say NHI?
I don't want to necessarily denote origin. I don't think we have all the data to say, oh, they're coming from a certain location.
Who in the government, either what agency, sub-agency, what contractors, who should be called into the next hearing about UAPs, either in a public setting or even in a private setting? And you probably can't name names, but what agencies or organizations, contractors, et cetera, do we need to call in to get these questions answered, whether it's about funding, what programs are happening, and what's out there?
I can give you a specific cooperative and hostile witness list of specific individuals that were in those.
And how soon can we get that list?
I'm happy to provide that to you after the hearing.
Religious studies. That's where you're going to find the truth of this.
We're now passing the 4-minute 30-second mark in the countdown. Still go at this time.
So in reality, Roger,
you were chosen by high-powered demon spirits to be a part of their human, special, privileged group.
He says, we are the elite. We know the real truth about the Master and his angels. And the priest told us, could I have a little bit more of your time? I want to do something very fascinating. He says the grand plan for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. And he said it's going to be done in a unique manner. This grand plan is going to take people are going to eat the stuff, because it says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it. It was a big thing that was coming up. One of the major deceptions of the last days.
Welcome, welcome. This is going to be a good episode. We got 3 hours tonight until the ball drops in New York. What a weird thing. Watching a ball drop in New York kind of brings in the new year. I always thought that was strange. Well, can't be any stranger than Strange Normal. We're going to be watching this tonight. It's going to be fun. And here it is. You can see it right here. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
T-minus 3 minutes and counting. T-minus 3. We are go with all elements of the mission at this time.
Be sure to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you are just here for the first time. We're going to talk about all the strangeness tonight. We're going to go over a ton of topics that you've been wondering about.
Just past the 2-minute mark in the countdown. T-minus 1 minute, 54 seconds and counting. All indications coming in to the control center at this time indicate we are go. Guidance system goes on internal at 17 seconds, leading up to the ignition sequence at 8.9 seconds. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. We passed T-minus 60.
Mysteries to the universe we will never manage to solve. But who we are and why we are here are not among them.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Strange Normal. My name is Bradley. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what is going on. And there is a lot going on, but it's the last thing for 2023. This is crazy. I mean, we have hit another year, and we're going to ring in the new year on this program tonight. And we're going to spend some time past midnight and kind of watch what happens as 2024 is going to bring us some even more craziness. Absolutely. But we're going to, before we get too far into it, I'm going to bring in our guests tonight. See if I can hit the right button here. Let me just tell you, before I bring in my guests tonight, there is so much complexity going on in this program right now. I've got a laptop sitting right here, right just off camera. You can't see it. I'm watching the New York YouTube channel, which I can pipe in real fast, just as I did in the intro there, and show you exactly what's going on. I won't show you because I don't know what is going on here, but it's really strange to watch dancing without any music, because I don't know why everybody does the splits at the same time. It's all choreographed. It's it's just strange. But I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna make sure that we don't miss the ball drop, and so that we can count down together. But before we do that, I'm gonna introduce our guests, and we're gonna get into the program. So let's do that. Hello, everybody. How are you?
Hello.
I'm gonna start at my screen's all backwards here, so I'm gonna try to see which way I'm going. Wendy, down below me, Meredith, and Sarah off to my side down here. Thank you all for joining me tonight. And Mikey won't be here. I asked him to come, but he's not able to come tonight. Matthew's going to be here in the last hour, and too many M names, I guess. I don't know. But how are you guys tonight? Wendy, tell me, how are you doing first?
Good. I'm glad to be here, Brad. It's exciting to see the new year come here on Strange Normal. It's always a fun time, so I'm looking forward to it.
Very good. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. 2024 is right around the bend. Meredith, how about you? How are you?
Great. Very blessed to be here, and just excited to bring in this new year and see what kind of strangeness is going to happen.
Oh, it's going to be a lot. We're ramping it up right now for sure.
Absolutely.
And Sarah, this is your first time here. I'm so glad you can join us tonight. I hope you do more often too. How are you?
Yeah. Couldn't be better. No place I'd rather be right now.
Right on. And everyone, we're all remote. No one's in the same place, and we all come together through this little app called Discord, where we talk about everything that's happening throughout the week. And I'm so glad you guys can be a part of the program. So let's get right into it. The first thing I have on the list tonight was actually last week's program, which was supposed to air last week, but we had some major technical difficulties, and I couldn't get the thing to work for me. So that was the first time we've had technical difficulties that bad in 2 years. So I have saved that, and we're going to go ahead and just roll it out for you guys tonight. Everything that was in that program and everything that was the next, we're going to cram it down to about an hour each, and hopefully we can get through everything. And then we're going to roll into a third program in the last hour before midnight, where we talk about just the amazing testimonies that have come out of the channel. We're going to talk about some video testimonies that I've collected from people physically, and we're going to also go over the plans for the new year, also some pretty cool stuff that we have going on. I'll show you a video. It's kind of a surprise. And if we have time, I'm going to air the 20-minute video that we just produced talking about the top 20 reasons why this whole deception is a demonic deception. It's a big deal. And so this was the thing we produced at the end of the year, because it was kind of a collection of everything that we've covered. And so it's kind of a good review. And if you haven't seen that, and if we have time, we'll air that on this channel tonight. If not, you can watch it. It's already uploaded on the channel. But let's get into tonight. Let's look at what's actually happening tonight. Before I do, let me see if I can find my B-roll and see what we are going for here. Everyone's unmuted. I'm just telling myself because I'm also producing the channel. We have 123 concurrent viewers. Welcome, everyone. I will look at the chat as we do B-roll, as we roll the videos here in just a second. And I am looking for my B-roll. There it is. All right.
I just want to say, hey, it's really cool to see Meredith and Sarah here. We're all on the Discord together, but it's unique to, talk online and then get to see each other here in person and just kind of hang out. Super cool.
Big fans.
All right. Here we go. Thank you so much for covering for me while I figured out where my buttons are. Let's play.
You know, but I mean, so why hiding it?
Do you believe that, though? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm very cynical about the idea that elements of the US Armed Forces have suddenly undergone a religious conversion and decided that they want to be disclosure activists. I just don't buy it. I mean, I think the US Air Force in particular is trying to gag this whole story, isn't it?
Yes, but I mean, you just used the word religious experience. I mean, it's, I mean, I hate to say it, it's pretty well known that the people within the government who are the most anti-letting of this information out are religious fundamentalists who believe that this is, I mean, talk about crazy. They're the ones who think it's the devil.
Yeah.
Right?
So they're saying it's demonic. I mean,
It's
I've actually
demonic.
had people with conversations with people in the US Air Force who've told me this is demonic.
Right.
Ross, you shouldn't be looking at this.
Right.
This is evil.
Right. And so how do you counter that kind of worldview? To me, even if it is demonic, I want to understand what they're doing and what their intent is.
Well, that was my next question. Do you think, on the evidence, it's well-intentioned, whatever it is?
I think it's neutral, to be honest.
It's ambivalent about
It's ambivalent, and you know, if we kind of get in the way of whatever it is they're doing, you can get hurt.
Do you think the others, whatever they are, these aliens that you believe are here, do you think they want to be known about?
Well, they're obviously not doing much, you know. But I mean, so why the interest in nuclear sites?
All right,
Hiding
we're gonna roll back to that because I realized I just had me and Wendy on the screen. I hit the button and it skipped to the next one. So I'm gonna try to roll it back. But isn't this interesting clip so far? I mean, he's actually saying exactly what we have been saying the whole time, and he's saying, "I don't care. I just want to know what it's more about." Let's continue watching the clip and finish the last 60 seconds of it to see exactly what he's going to say next.
Whatever it is.
Right. I think they're showing us what they can do. Right. They do show up. They're showing up around the nuclear sites. We all know this now.
We've seen them over bases in Australia.
Right. We've seen them around the USS Nimitz, and it happens multiple times a week. I mean, even today, and I've been speaking with people about that.
By definition, that's a threat, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're going to kill us, but
No.
it's by definition a threat
It's
because they're breaching the security of some of the most sensitive military installations on the planet.
Right. And I guess what they're saying is, well, who said this was your space anyway?
I mean, it just he's almost got it. I mean, but he's so off base at the same time too. He's saying. What's blowing my mind though is what Gary is saying. Gary Nolan is a doctor at a prestigious Ivy League university called Stanford. Stanford's Ivy League, right? Stanford. Yeah. And he does. So for those that don't know, he does brain analysis. He's an expert in brain analysis. He's one Tucker Carlson was talking about when he didn't want to reveal who it was that came to them and said, "Hey, I have studied over 100, I think he said 200 at one time, over 100 brains of military people that have died due to walking up to these orbs on their Navy crafts, on their ships, and wanting to know what's going on, and had suffered head injuries." And so he's saying, you know what, I've had experience with this. I want to know what it is. And he says, I don't care if it's demonic or not. I want to know exactly what's going on here. Boy, I can hear some echoes from Eden, can't you?
Man,
What do you think, Wendy?
terrible. Yeah, I mean, how can you say it's demonic and then not care? That just blows my mind. And the fact that he's all, well, it's neutral, but it's completely benevolent, and people have died and are hurt. Like, what? You're not even clear. None of that makes sense. I don't get it. It's like the Pandora's box. You know, it's like they're afraid they're gonna miss out on something if they're not the first one to know, or I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. In my mind, if it's demonic in any form, why would you want to mingle? You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think they fully understand. Well, since we have so many people, I'm going to go around this way. I don't know what this way is. I think it's clockwise. I don't know which way it is, but because my screen is backwards, so it's counterclockwise to me. But Sarah, what do you think?
I think it's interesting that he says, even if it is demonic, he seems all over the place. Even if it is demonic, however, the people who think it might be demonic, they're crazy. Like, if you don't know what it is, can't we have the opinion without being insane?
Good point.
Meredith.
Yeah. I don't understand how he can actually see physical people being harmed by this and still be so curious at it. That just shows you how much that Satan can actually deceive people and to want to know more, to wanting to go see more, to see what's going to happen next. What are they going to do? I'm so glad that I see red flags in the chat, because this is red flags all over it for sure.
It really is. It really is. And I'm so enthralled with what's going on here. I didn't even look at my notes. I should have prefaced what was going on here, because this is 2-week old episode, so I'm not even sure what's happening next. But I'm going to bring up the Discord so I actually have my show notes here to see what we got. But that was an interesting clip, because he really proved to me that they don't care. They don't care what if it lies to them. I was actually talking in one of the Facebook groups just tonight, trying to get more information from the group members that are just enthralled by this, and people are really deceived by it. And I asked him, I said, well, what proof do you have? Where is it? And I'm not being contentious. I'm actually truly coming across as someone that is very curious about this, which I am, but I know the limits. And I say, what is it? Where is your authority? What is the source that says that this is something that you want to play with? How do you know they're not lying to you? And they said, you need to, the way we know is by our experiences. Number one, they have this 1 or 2 or 3 people books that they have written, and they say that it's good because they've told them that it's good. And other people have chimed into the comments saying, I have the same experience. They've told me the exact same message, and they say that we're trying to protect you. They say that we're good things. And so I believe them. How do you know? How do you know that this thing is not absolutely deceiving? I mean, that's what it comes down to. Where is your authority? But that was the wrong show. Let me scroll up to the top here. Coulthart and Gary Nolan. People think this is Satan, and he said, and even if it's demonic, he wants to know. He thinks it's nice. It's a threat, and it's a threat, but it's a threat. He thinks it's nice, but it's a threat, and that's the way they're going to push it. Okay.
Still dangerous.
We have 2 more clips with.
Let's do it anyway.
Yeah, it just blows my mind. So 2 more clips with Coulthart and Gary. This one is going to talk about the ET. The ET is worried about us leaving. Okay, let's see exactly what's happening here.
Interesting.
Play. Let's see if I can do this correctly now.
But I mean, so why the interest in nuclear sites? I mean, I said this before that, so humanity, I think, is on the verge of leaving the planet, as we know. And I think any intelligence that would be looking at us from the outside, that's been around as long as perhaps they have, knows what the trajectory of humanity might be. And that would be to move out into the solar system, and maybe eventually, even if it takes conventional means to accomplish it, move out into other stars. So here we are, a planet full of angry monkeys, and we can't even take care of our own planet, and we're threatening to move out into the nearby galactic arm. Might take us 1,000, 10,000 years to do it. Maybe our neighbors want to know what it is that we're capable of doing.
Maybe our neighbors want to know. So in other words, he's surmising that the neighbors are the people that are nearby that are very curious about us. The ETs that are coming to talk to us, they are telling us that they're concerned that we are not smart enough to go about space travel yet, and that we could destroy planets. This is the narrative. This is the thing that we're going to run across over and over again. Yeah, just watch. If you haven't heard this narrative before, this is the thing. And if it goes beyond that too, because it says not just other planets, but maybe these things, they call them entities, we know as demonic, the demonic realm is pushing this lie where it's coming and it's saying, you've harmed us in another realm by using your nuclear weapons. I kid you not. That's what they say. And so we are concerned about your nuclear warfare. Does it sound like, I mean, just that alone tells me that if nuclear war starts up again, what's going to happen?
Right.
I mean, we're going to have, right? That's what it sounds like. And so this whole thing, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying it's that programming, like this, like where they tell you what they're going to do, you know, like, so you relate nuclear war to their being here, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And so you relate that, and this is seeding people's minds. I mean, people are watching these podcasts. It doesn't have to be in media anymore. It makes you wonder, was this all orchestrated by the spiritual realm? This whole, hey, I'm not going to go to MSM anymore, mainstream media. Now we're going to all these podcasts that are all kind of alternative media that aren't scared of losing their sponsorships and everything. And now people are learning all this stuff, and they're reciting it, they're telling their neighbors, and now all these alternative podcasts are saying, oh, well, you know, the reason why such and such has happened, nuclear war is happening, or, you know, these ETs have appeared is because we're using nuclear weapons. Even though this isn't in the media, where are people getting the information from? And so all this stuff is happening right now, and all this disinformation is being pushed out there from the immediate spiritual realm. That's essentially what it is. So I think we have a lot to, and that's what I wanted to say. 2025. So does that? And this is just me surmising. I don't have any proof on this, but I think that we really need to be concerned because if you watched the news lately, we have a whole category on our Discord at the very bottom called Wars and Rumors of Wars. And all this stuff that's happening right now, I mean, there's just like 5 things added every day. I mean, there's so much happening. I fully expect by 2025 for us to be in a major war, either with Russia, China, which would be devastating, or Iran, you know, over this whole, I don't know if that's still going on. I haven't looked at the news lately, but so it makes you wonder, is all this stuff coming together at the same time? I fully think so. That's just me.
Yeah,
They're planning
I think they're playing it from every angle. No, it's fine. We got a little lag. I'm just saying they're planning from every angle. You know, it's not just one direction.
100%.
Yeah. I like what Brad said too about, you know, do they even know what they're doing? This news media, is it just all spiritually led? Because, I mean, without God, they're just puppets. You know, they're going to do whatever brilliant thing they think they're going to do, but it's definitely orchestrated. There's a whole, you know, world out there working together for evil purposes because devil knows his time is short. I mean, what I appreciated from that video is he's not wrong. You know, I mean, yeah, we are on our way out. The Bible says that the earth moans and groans, you know, as time goes on because of the devastation. I think what people have done to the earth. There's only so long left for this earth to last, and people that don't have God even recognize that. So, I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself and going to show that, yeah, the devil's going to be working even harder, even faster, trying to roll out his plan. And for sure, yeah, war is definitely a part of it. It's all like, you know, right at the door. Time's just ticking away real quickly these days. So, but
I want to add to.
Yeah, I always have to write things down because I feel like they say so much. But I think he's right. You know, we are on our way out. This world's not going to last forever, and God promises to make it new. So, you know, he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not wrong in several aspects. Number one, you're right. Christ is coming soon, and he's going to cut it short. So we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. But I think I want to add a little legitimacy to what you said. Isaiah 51:6 says, "Lift up your eyes to the heavens, look at the earth beneath. The heavens will vanish like smoke." We talked about that in the last top 20 video. And the earth will wear out like a garment, and its inhabitants will die like flies. but my salvation will last forever. My righteousness will never fail. What an amazing promise.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes, it is.
The there's something else I was going to say too. I don't remember what it was. But what about you two, Sarah and Meredith? I assume that you've completed your thought, Wendy. Do you have any other things to say?
Yeah, well, it's like, again, he's all over the place. Are we stupid monkeys, or are we ready for hardcore space travel? And if these things are watching us, couldn't they just watch from afar instead of getting involved? And like, if we get off the planet, just shoot us down? Instead, they have to be in politics and all this other stuff. It's just odd.
For sure.
Meredith, any thoughts before I continue the next clip?
Yeah, I just want to quickly add, I agree. Satan's working at every facet. He's going to use anything he possibly can to seed our minds, to make us, prime us, basically, for what's coming. They are planning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. This next clip, they reveal that they know, and we use this on the top 20 video. I thought this was just amazing. If this is the one I'm thinking of, again, 2 weeks ago I created this list, but they reveal that this thing, whatever they think it is, we know what it is, but this thing, they say, it can augment our reality. Watch this.
There's a document I wrote about in my book called Slide 9. And Chris Mellon had accidentally left it on his website, and it was discovered by a very clever British researcher who was just going through and checking to see what Chris had on his website. It's a document that was prepared as a briefing document for the Undersecretary of Defence by members of the UFO task force. I think Lou Elizondo's team.
Mm-hmm.
The key thing about it is that it advises that whatever the phenomenon is, it's capable of manipulating human perception, human consciousness.
Right.
It can make us see things that aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's possibly what we're seeing in the sky in the form of UFOs?
I mean, I think that's part of what makes it so difficult to reproduce, is that different people see different things. I mean, the best example of this that I know is a story that Jacques Vallée brought to me, of a family in France driving down the highway. This was like in the last 5 to 10 years. And they had a glass-topped car. And they look up and they see a UFO, basically paralleling them down the highway. The mother looks around and sees that no other individuals nearby are freaking out about this thing above them. The children in the back take out their cell phones, take a picture of it. They get home and they look at the pictures on their camera, and they don't see an object. They see a little star-shaped thing about 30 so feet above it, and I have the picture that doesn't look anything like a drone. It's like I think it has like 7 spokes and a central hole of some sort. So you're left with this. They saw a giant craft, but the picture shows that there was nothing else there. Nobody else could see it. So even if it was an object, that was there. Others weren't capable of seeing it, so it was manipulating vision. So yes is the short answer.
Are there stories you're scared to cover? Because there will be times, and
I guess I have Otto next on. Whoops. That was fascinating. I think that was interesting because what was it up there? What did we see? A star. Right. So that really blows my mind, because we know that the Bible calls the angels, the ones that were around and surrounded God's throne, the fallen angels. I mean, every angel, the cherubim and seraphim. These are 2 different races, types. I'm not exactly sure what to call them. 2 different types of angels.
Genre.
Yeah. They're I don't know, divided into these 2 categories. And these 2 different types of angels, a third of them left and went down to earth, and because they decided, we want to do what we want to do. We don't want to follow God anymore. We don't want to be the ones that obey a creator. We think that we can be our own moral authority. I mean, we're good creatures, so why don't we just decide for ourselves? And that's what the whole controversy is spiritually right now. And so these things, and God says, hey, these things are the stars of the heaven. Not literally. I don't literally think they are the stars of the heaven, but they look like it. And so when we see these things, obviously, they are like these glowing orbs. That's what they always define these things as. When you see these UFOs going around, right? They don't see a cylindrical ship, usually. That's maybe 5%, 5 to 10% of the time. 90% of the time, they see these round glowing balls of light. And so if you see a round glowing ball of light, even if it was in the daytime up there, you would think, oh, it's a really bright star. Stars of the heavens. And so what he sees tells me that it confirms to me what we're seeing. We're seeing those spiritual entities. We're seeing angels. And up there, amazingly, they have this ability to augment our reality, to make us see enormous football-sized ships and all this other stuff on the ground. But when you take a picture of it, I don't know if this was allowed or it was an accident. These things aren't infallible. And so if they made a mistake, we know they can make mistakes because they made a big one by becoming the fallen angels. And they just decided, I allowed myself to have a Polaroid taken of it. He says a cell phone. The story I heard was a Polaroid, and this happened a while ago. He said this happened in the last 10 years. Maybe these are two different stories. Maybe this happened twice. That would be interesting. What do you think? I'm going to go around the other way. What do you think, Meredith?
I do find it very typical when people say they're going to be seeing actual orbs, and because I've actually even seen one. So it's just a ball of light, and they can manifest things for people seeing, because I mean, if they can manifest ships, they can manifest you seeing your relatives that have passed away. They're going to trick your mind into seeing things that you're not actually seeing, and that's why you really have to know the Word of God so that you are not deceived by these things, and so that you can say, hey, wait a minute, this ain't right, and call out to God.
Sarah, what do you think?
It made me think of something similar, but also I don't remember the name of the guy, but he had people that would clear their mind and just call to anything that would answer. It just reminds me of the importance to meditate on God's word, not like the world meditates now, where they clear their mind and whatever wants to influence them or present to them. They have to meditate on an actual word of God. And I think that most people nowadays they think that clearing your mind is how they get an altered state, but just such danger in that.
Yeah, super dangerous, because the Bible says, actually there is a order of operations. I got to find it. It's in the Bible, but it says, you know what, if you want to get rid of sin out of you, you put more Christ into you. You don't take it out first. You don't clear yourself out and then put Christ in. You put Christ in and he pushes it out. And so it's the exact opposite in the New Age movement, where you clear your mind to allow something in. You quiet that still small voice. And that's the dangerous part. Yeah. What do you think, Wendy?
So true. I was just thinking about, from a Christian perspective, when he talks about, it can manifest and, appear as certain things that aren't necessarily there. It's like, so, I don't know. From a Christian perspective, it's like, demons are powerful. So seems obviously another link to why we consider them demonic. I'm just looking at 2 Corinthians 4:18, and it says, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. So we know from the Bible that angels, God's angels or fallen angels, they have these powers. They can be unseen, but clearly they can also be seen. So they have a lot of powers. They have a lot of capabilities that we don't fully understand, that we're not fully capable of, grasping, I guess, the side of heaven. And so, yeah, when these things happen, when they say something's going to manifest themselves, as a whole to our world someday, I think, well, yeah, it's good to know ahead of time, but seems like the obvious next move for demonic forces. Right. They're trying to plant that seed and get out there more and more without causing, mass pandemonium. So little by little, I think it makes sense for them to manifest themselves here and there, get those individual testimonies, all these people saying, yeah, I saw it too, open people's minds to the possibility of this happening, opening those demonic doors. And then the more this happens, the easier it becomes. I'm just thinking back again to the book that I read with Secret Machines. Peter Levenda talked about how one of the first major UFO sightings happened after it was like thousands of people practiced this yoga together for the first time. And so they were opening this huge doorway, and then it was like, boom, all this, experience with spirituality. So yeah, I think manifesting itself is just a telltale sign of who this really is that we're dealing with.
Yeah, and can you imagine when this gets out in the open, because it will, we have all those people doing this same thing, trying to get a hold of these things because of terrible things that are happening on Earth. It's going to open a lot of doors. I mean, they say that in ufology, where you're opening a portal. I don't think it's actually physically doing that. I think what's actually going on here, and there's talks about this in the One Project, which is a demonic translated thing, where they have this Earth. They have decided that this is their home base spiritually, and so they, being trying to protect this place apparently from the rest of the righteous universe, have bordered this place. God is more powerful, but he's also a gentleman. And so if people on Earth are not requesting his assistance, he's not going to step in. And so if we aren't praying, that's why we need to pray. Because can you imagine? I'm not saying this is exactly how it works, but can you imagine if there's angels just lining the heavens right now and preventing God from coming in here, bringing angels from coming in here, because the angels are, although more powerful than them, they're going to sit there and they're going to wait, and they're going to say, there are people there that need my help, but they aren't asking for it. And so all of a sudden, when a congregation prays for the same thing, we have enough prayers, let's go down there, you have to let us in, our people are calling. And so I think it's the same way for these entities too. God says, you know what, if you're not asking for me, if you want your other husbandmen, I guess if that's what you want to call it, to come down and be with you, then we'll give it to you. But that's what you have to call for. It's really spooky. And I want to pull off of what Meredith said just a minute ago, because I think that it was a very valid point. These augmented reality is absolutely more than just ships. It's more than just seeing things in the sky. It's dead relatives. It's dead people. And if you don't believe in ET, you will absolutely see something else that will tell you what you want to hear, especially if it's an emotional tie to somebody. And so we got to be very careful with that. And very important. Any other comments before we move on to the next? All right, let's move on. Let's see what we got here. We have Tucker Carlson, and he's this is the first time we see him. I have several clips of him, and he's going to be talking about his belief in this thing, and it's very, very eye-opening. This is the intro to it. Watch this.
Are there stories you're scared to cover? Because there will be times, and I know you are hit with a torrent of information on a daily basis, way more than I am. And I mean, you have contacts all around the world that are, there's probably someone on the space station right now texting you with information about something. And so are there things that you're scared to cover? You're sitting there saying, wow, this is like soul crushing, like to the point where like it really scares you in your soul.
Yes, the UFO story. And you know, the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of it, again, that's another story where there are some, you know, fanciful ideas floating around that are just, you know, there's no evidence that they're true. But if you talk to people who, you know, have actual knowledge of it that they gathered themselves, there are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I, you know, haven't told my wife about it. I mean, I haven't verified any of this, but this is not just stuff that I read on the internet. I know you all are very, very grounded in that story, so I think I know, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But there's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. And I think, last thing I'll say, that one of the reasons that we've had all these disclosures and all of these, 10 whistleblowers at this point, and it hasn't really become front page news. Part of it's suppression. You know, parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out. The implications are too profound. And so, and I understand that. Because I've heard things where I'm just like, oh man, I don't even really want to know that, honestly.
Deeply disturbing stuff. You know, forget like saucers, you know what I mean? And technology. It's deeply disturbing stuff that I haven't even told Natalie. Yep. I agree with you. It's so disturbing. Exactly. I can't even tell my kids. My kids ask me different stories about it, and I won't say it because it's so dark. It's so dark.
I totally agree.
Miles is watching. So.
Okay, Miles, if you're watching the show, Daddy's not going to tell you about that part of the UFO stuff and what's going on with the government.
Well,
can
I say one thing? They've known clearly. I mean, this is, I think, established, and I feel comfortable saying this as fact. The U.S. government, I mean, these are real, whatever they are. They're not human. And the government has known that for a long time, possibly going back to the 1930s at least. And of course, there's tons of evidence in the written record, in the physical record, in paintings, and in literature, that people have been seeing and interacting with these things for a long time. So we know that. But the justification one often hears is, well, the government, various presidents who have been read in, not all have been, haven't wanted to disclose this because it would scare people. And I've always thought that's bullshit. You know, you're hiding a crime, which they are, by the way, in my opinion. But I do think there's a sense in which that's not totally crazy. Like, there is some stuff, if it's true, and I'm kind of thinking it may be true, that's so radical that, yeah, well, as we both said, we don't want to tell the people we love most about it because, like, why would you disturb someone like that? So I kind of get that. I hate to admit it. I'm not arguing for hiding things. I believe in the truth and I believe in disclosure, but I understand the impulse. Like, holy smokes, this is heavy. You know what I mean?
And the government's involvement in it makes it even heavier because then you realize the complicity.
Exactly.
Of it. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about the same thing. I can tell. Okay.
Yeah,
excuse me.
Should I go?
No. This is what we used to talk about in commercial breaks all the time. This is the kind of stuff. Anyway.
So at the time, I never would have believed any of that. But now I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't get you out of here on this, Tucker, which is you've covered politics a long time.
Tucker, you made some very interesting...
We're going to pause it right there. Oh my goodness, there's so much to go off of there. And I just looked at the time. We got 5 minutes until the next show. I don't think we're going to be able to make it. I should have cut this down a little bit. But this is really good, interesting stuff. Because Tucker, let me recap what he just said here. He said that some things Tucker's scared of in this thing. He says, I don't want to report on this. I don't think that I even told my kids, my wife about this stuff. And so did the whatever his name is, the Redacted guy. He says, there's dark parts of this UFO story. Clayton, yeah, very good. And he says, spiritual component, I don't understand. There's public can't deal with it. It's just too far out. And the government's, I understand that why they don't want to be involved in it, or they don't want people to be involved in it. It's just too heavy. What in the world is he talking about? And the reason why I added this clip is because every time he talks on a podcast after this, every clip I have after this is referencing this one clip where he says, there's stuff that I know that I'm not going to tell you. And because, and everyone's like, what? Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. Why don't you tell us? I don't get it. You know something we don't? You're part of the cover up, aren't you, Tucker? And so they just go off on him. Not really go off on him, but it's fascinating to see exactly what's happening here because he says this is weird, and we know why it's weird. I can surmise what he's talking about, and I think I know enough of the lore to know exactly what he's gonna say, but I don't even know if I know everything. So I think what do you guys think? I mean, everything that we know about the demonic realm, about the lore, about what's happening here, I'm wondering if I should even open this up. This isn't really. I try to keep everything focused down to not the theory, but what is the fact? What does the Bible say? What is going on here? So maybe I'm just going to do that. I'm going to let that go. I know everyone wants to talk about it. I'm going to let that go for a second, and if you want to say something about it, say something about it after this next clip, because we do need to get rolling. Keep that in mind. Write it down if you need to. But let's go on to the next Timcast clip, and see what he says about this, and then we'll talk about that. Okay. Here we go.
Tucker, you made some very interesting comments recently that has been going viral all over social media when you were specifically talking about UFOs. And you were specifically talking about something that is hard to kind of really understand here. I was wondering, what's your kind of take on all of this? Because I see this as a spiritual war. Do you see this as a spiritual war? What are your kind of core belief systems when it comes to addressing the larger evils of the system?
Well, as I so often do, I spoke incompletely. I didn't fully explain myself. In the clip that you're referring to, which like 8 people have sent me, in outrage, that I basically said there are things that I know that I won't say, which of course is not exactly right. I don't know. I mean, I can't prove it, and I really do try to say things that I really believe are true and are provably so. And so that's kind of my hesitance. If I had facts, I would say them. It's my personal belief, based on a fair amount of evidence, that they're not aliens. They've always been here, and I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. So, and again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence, I think.
I'm with you. Absolutely. Well, the military has been working in this realm for a very long time. They have been also trying to weaponize it. There's also a lot of crazy experiments that they did with DMT, hooking people up essentially to DMT IVs, having people go off into the spiritual realm. So if you're not paying attention, you don't understand that there's a larger kind of energetic frequency and battle happening. But
can I say one thing? If the U.S. government has in fact had direct contact with these beings, whatever they are, I've already told you what I think they are, and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, which is the claim of informed people, I would say, whether they're right or wrong, I can't say conclusively. But if that is true, I mean, it's a very, very, very heavy thing.
Yeah, a lot of people say interdimensional beings.
Right, I want to ask, are angels and demons, or how would you describe these beings?
These are, again, I'm getting into the realm of conjecture, so I just want to say that flat out.
Entity?
But one thing I know for a dead certain fact, having seen it, is that there is good and evil, that we are being acted upon at all times. And I think every person can feel that in himself. I mean, there are moments when you are moved to do things that are much better than you actually are, and that are also more evil and destructive than you actually are. You are subject to forces from outside yourself. That is absolutely true. Now, we can argue about what they are, but every person in the room, if he's reflective, will tell you, yes, I know what you're talking about. And so there are forces that are not human, that do exist in a spiritual realm of some kind, that we cannot see, and that when you think about it, sort of make you think we live in an ant farm.
Yeah. All right, so let's pause it right there. Everyone hold your breath. I'm going to say, if you like this, if this is interesting to you, hit that like button, hit that bell icon, hit that subscribe button, because this is what we do every week. You guys are going to want to see more and more of this. So this is the stuff we go over on the Discord. So if you want to be a part of that, go to patreon.com/strangenormal. Become a Patreon member. Join us. All of us on here are part of that, and we all look at this. We all have probably seen this clip, and we're digging deep into this tonight. What do you guys think about that? Now, keep in mind, he didn't actually say that he thinks they're demonic or they're nice, but I think he inferred a lot there, a lot more than he does in his normal program. And so I'm going to go to you, Wendy, first. What do you think? We'll circle around.
Man, I think that was kind of mind-blowing to hear him say that, because he's always had such a kind of a back row view of it. He doesn't just come out and say his own personal, like he was saying. I'm not going to say it unless I know for a fact. But now he's kind of being questioned, and they're asking him, well, why did you make that comment, without knowing? And he's like, okay. So he's kind of cornered a bit, but I'm glad that he's finally letting it out. I remember you showing the clip, can't tell you when, but where he was speaking about, hey, I decided to open my Bible. Wait a minute. So you've been considering yourself a Christian this whole time, but you're just now opening the Bible. I mean, take that for what you will, but I'm glad that he's at least opening the Bible. Right. And, he has this platform. And if you are seeking out truth, God's going to give it to you. If you have a pure heart, you're going to find the knowledge and the truth of God. And so he's reading the Bible, and suddenly he's having all these personal convictions that are definitely swaying what he's saying and how he feels about the whole, NHI subject. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's kind of wonderful that he's showing up on these shows and acknowledging, what you've been saying all along here on Strange Normal. And, some of the comments of the people around him kind of threw me off. The guy that had the Epstein shirt on, I'm pretty sure, isn't that the atheist?
I think so.
Yeah, so it's weird because
he keeps
saying, this is a spiritual
that was
battle.
that was the long-haired guy, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? I think he said he was an anarchist.
I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
The anarchist. That's right. Yeah.
I was thinking atheist. I'm like, wait, he's talking about a spiritual battle, but you're right, the anarchist. So it doesn't believe in government, but.
Whoops, wrong button. Keep going. Welcome to New York for a second. Okay, go for it.
So I don't know. I'm just saying that seeing him speak about this from a better religious perspective is thrilling to me. I like seeing people with a big platform sticking up for their convictions. So, and I think that's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. What about you, Sarah? What do you think?
Hopefully I can articulate where my mind's all over the place with this. Basically, when you peer into darkness, it's scary. And so if he knows all these dark stories, of course he's going to be terrified. And I just hope that he takes some time to look at the light and to study more about God. Because, don't get me wrong, I would be terrified if I saw an angel or anything appearing in front of me. But I know who I serve. I know who actually is in control. And that really would give him a lot of peace. And also, people are so concerned about the government being in cahoots with these things, but if we actually take a look at it, which I know you guys talked about it a bit, but entertainment's been in cahoots with them for a long, long time, and they actually have a lot more influence than government as far as how people think. And so that's just what I was thinking.
100%. Yeah, I don't know why people don't talk about that. You think we talk about your government being involved with this. Now, the Hollywood scene has been talking to these things, especially to writers, and we have proof of that for a long time. 100%. Meredith, what do you think?
Well, you think about it. He seems like in every place he's. I think he might have had an experience himself. You think about it. He's just got in more and more talking about how these things have come about. People have been telling him more and more things. He even said on there, I wrote down, he's seen it. Seen what? If you go back on the clip, I don't know if that's what he was talking about, or if it just slipped out, but he's talking literally like he's experienced something that it's pushed him to want to read the Bible, to want to find out more about what these really are, because he really, I think he might have he kind of knows what's really going on between everything that he's gotten from people he's interviewed, to research he's done on his own, to possibly an experience. And so that's what's thrown him maybe to reading the Bible, which I agree with Wendy. I think it's amazing that he's at least opening that up, and I pray that God will continue to open up his mind and let him know the truth behind this.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think this is an interesting thing that Tucker's gotten gotten deep into. And in Breaking Points, he goes in further on this topic, and he tries to figure out exactly what's going on here. He says, if I had verifiable facts, I would put them on air. Watch this.
I know you're on a tight schedule. My last question here is: we have shared passion for UFO transparency, and you made a comment very recently, which has gotten a lot of attention in the UFO world, that you've learned things that have made you afraid. And I've seen there's been a lot of, I think, right-minded skepticism, not even just from people who are more establishment-minded, others who are like, well, if the government is quote-unquote acknowledging UFOs, then that's how I know that it's not real. So you seem to be a believer. You've spoken with Dave Grush. I've met him as well. He seems like a very, he at the very least, I don't think he's lying to me whenever I was spoken to him. So what gives you assurance that what you're hearing, what you have come to believe is not a government psyop, so to speak?
Well, everything's a government psyop, including UFOs, but that doesn't mean that there aren't UFOs. And I think I know the comment you're referring to is on Clayton Morris's, an old friend of mine called Clayton Morris's podcast, a great guy, really interested in this topic. And I said that there are things that I don't want to talk about, and I, as usual, didn't fully explain myself. If I had, verifiable facts about this phenomenon, I would immediately put them on the air, because I'm committed to that completely, because my whole life is about that. So I should have said more clearly, I can't be certain. This is just what I believe based on, talking to an awful lot of people about this, some of whom I trust a lot, some of whom I trust sort of. I mean, you're trying to piece it together from lots of different places, but no, these are my views, okay? They can't be proven, but I think they're informed views. The phenomenon is real. It's been recorded for thousands of years. We know that. There's something buzzing around us in the skies, but also under the oceans, we now know, and probably underground as well. So it's real. The government's lied about it a million different ways, probably for a million different reasons, for at least 80 years. That's also confirmed. They're lying about it now. Who knows what their motives are? And they're also trying to keep a lot of this stuff from being disclosed. That's true.
Yes.
So to those people, it's like, it's a psyop. Well, yeah, everything's a psyop, but I know for a dead certain fact, and it's provable, that, say, Mitch McConnell and Speaker Johnson and people and a couple committee chairmen who should all know better are trying to prevent the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023 from taking effect in a meaningful way. So they are trying to hide it still. That's a fact. My own view is that these are not aliens. There's no evidence that they've come from somewhere else. We would probably know. We've got a lot of technology that's watching what comes in and out of the atmosphere, and there's no evidence of that. I think they've been here forever. This is my view. Again, it can't be proven, but I'm just telling you, after a lot of conversations, I think it's likely that the U.S. government has had contact with these, direct contact, and over a period of years. I find that really disturbing, because and a bunch of other things that are highly distressing that I can't prove, and so I'm certainly not going to throw them out there. But I'll tell you this: I've talked to a lot of people about this, not because I've never been interested in UFOs until like 5 years ago, and I was like, wait, this is real. What is this? Why aren't we talking about this? I'm just like coming at it from a totally idiotic, I don't know anything, curious position, which is my normal posture on everything. And so I've talked to a lot of people, and my view is that this is my opinion, that there are things about this that are really disturbing. And while I hate any kind of government secrecy, and if I could prove any of this, I would say it immediately, consequences be damned, I do sort of understand why they don't want to let this stuff out. It's not about, we've got fragments of one of these crafts at a Lockheed, facility in California, and we have biologics from the craft. Everyone knows that that's likely true. Well, it's certainly true that they have the, pieces of this stuff. Yep. But I think it's likely that it's darker than that, and that the U.S. government is, I say the U.S. government, people in the U.S. government, not the U.S. government, but there are it's the largest human organization in history. Parts of it, have knowledge that is very, very disturbing. And I personally strongly think that there's a spiritual component to this that I don't understand and will not pretend to understand. But I think it's very clear that there's a spiritual component to this. That's one of the reasons the Vatican, and I'm not Catholic, but has been involved in this for over 100 years, has an observatory, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's pretty obvious that these are not men from Mars. I think that was a psyop, because I think the truth is a little bit wilder and has deeper implications just than that.
giving us even more to think about. Tucker, I want to thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. I encourage everybody to go and sign up for your subscription program.
Okay, we'll pause it right there just for a second. Let me recap what he just said, because he said a lot, and I think he's referring to what he thinks it is here. So I think this kind of tells us a little bit more about what the lore is that is being pushed on the people. Tucker on Breaking Point said, if I had the verifiable facts, I would put them on air. I find it disturbing. The government has had contact. And he says verifiably that he says, I believe that they have. And he says, it's because there is knowledge, that it is disturbing. Because there is knowledge. What did I write? Because there is knowledge that it's disturbing. And the Catholic Church has been involved in this. And so there you go. There's tying the Catholic Church to this again. I find that propaganda fascinating. But so I think he's alluding to what he thinks it is, because he's been given a piece of unverifiable lore. And I'm going to reveal that tonight. I just thought about it as I was going that way, that this, according to the lore, unverifiable. Again, you can't really verify this stuff, but I thought it's important for everyone to know at least what he knows and what he thinks about this whole thing. And I'm not pushing this stuff out there just to push out theory, because we don't believe this stuff on this channel. I don't believe this stuff. I believe that this is the deception that's coming not from humanity, but from the spiritual realm. So what has been said? Okay, so long time ago, and this you can look this up. It was said that President Carter was a deeply religious man who had also witnessed a UFO with 6 other people. Everyone thought that he would be the one to finally release all this stuff, and he eventually, the CIA had told him exactly what was happening. It is said that after Kennedy, this whole thing, the president became a temporary employee type. That's how they referenced him. So they didn't tell him everything. I don't know how true that is, but it said the CIA had the talk with him, and afterward, it was reported that he sunk his head down in his hands and that he began to sob deeply, but was visibly disturbed for some weeks afterwards. So what did they tell him? This is what they say. This is the story. In one paragraph, he was told that the major religions, including Christianity, were programs created by extraterrestrials to prevent us from destroying ourselves while they ran experiments on us. Now think about experiments as in cattle mutilations, okay, or abductions, or these things that all the backwoods people have come out and said, I had someone abduct me and they put something in me. All right, I'm not saying everyone. Let me preface that with, maybe you're listening to this and you're not a backwoods person and you have had something like that happen to you. I'm not downplaying that. I think that's very interesting, but I'm just saying that there is that's the whole joke, right? And people have seen stuff, legitimately had experiences, and it's very scary. They can instill fear in you without even ever being scary, but it was scary. So at this moment, Carter it became clear to Carter that such an information could cause tremendous economic and social upheaval, and that he was very concerned about this for weeks. And so that is the lore that I'm sure Tucker knows about, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to. I'm sure this is going to come out someday, and they're going to say, "Yeah, we've created the religions to keep everyone in check while because we created you on Earth." That was transcribed from one of them. We've created you on Earth, and we have been testing you to make sure that your DNA fits our DNA. And that's a big deal, because now we know that we can do this science on Earth here. We're a giant experiment. That's what this whole thing comes down to. That's a load of hogwash, right? That's a bunch of baloney. But that's the deeply unverifiable, disturbing stuff that I think Tucker is referring to. What do you think about this whole concept, Wendy? Let's go to Wendy first.
It's just mind-boggling. Again, like, the first thing I think of watching Tucker in these conversations is all he's doing is, like, drawing curiosity. There's something so horrible I can't even tell you. It's like Don't you want to know? I feel like most people are like, yeah, wait, what is it? What's so bad that the human race can't handle? It's just like this, drawing people in further into something that they should be steering away from. Blows my mind that it works, but it does. It's like we're little children just wanting to know things still. But I was also thinking about, again, back to Peter Levenda, one of the things that from the beginning of watching this whole UFO, UAP thing unravel, it's like, how can people go through these horrible experiences and again think that there's any good that can come out of it? Blows my mind. One of the things that Peter Levenda said that is an interesting explanation if you don't have God. If you're refusing to believe in God and the spiritual aspect of things, his point of view is that if you take a look at initiations, like with, like sororities, any initiation, but especially the old ritualistic ones, like the Freemasons, they have like a huge, horrible initiation system that you have to go through before you're accepted into the club. And so Peter Levenda says it's basically the same thing. These alien races, or whatever he wants to call them, they are performing these things on people, doing these horrible acts, and the whole point is to separate you from your consciousness, separate you from the idea that you have control over what's going on, so that you just fully trust the experience and consciously let go of blocking them from, I believe, feeding you the delusion. But it's mind-boggling that they can say there are these horrible things going on. Yeah, let's track it down. Let's find out what's going on. Let's talk about it all the time. Let's, draw it closer to us.
That's a really interesting point. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to walk on you.
No, go ahead.
So before I go to you, Sarah, I think what you said is key here, because I didn't put that together. What that also does, it not only separates you from your understanding of things, but it also separates you from your family. Because you say, I had this experience, and people are like, okay. I mean, hopefully your family loves you well enough that it doesn't separate you completely. But think about what happened to the Bledsoes and their church family. It completely separated them. If you don't have a loving congregation that is going to say, oh, okay, we need to work on these guys closer and not, just pound them with the Bible, pound them with what's right. We need to be closer friends with them, spend more time with them. They're going to separate so fast. They're going to be like, I believe this thing. I had a better experience with this thing than I had with you. I mean, something's big is happening here. You guys haven't seen it, and you guys think I'm crazy? Get away from me. I'm not going to ever go back to that church. That's the danger. This whole thing separates you and prepares you to be something that it can use. So I think that's really, really interesting. Very good, Wendy. What do you think, Sarah?
Again, quite a few things. First, I love his laugh. It just always brings a smile on my face. But I thought it was interesting also. I feel like he has many, many stories similar to what you outlined about Carter, did you say, was it?
Carter. Mm-hmm.
But I think that he's heard some gory stories, and we know so many of people being turned inside out, stuff like that. But I think there's a lot more to it. Like you said, people that I trust and some I don't so much, but I'm sure he's heard some awful, really creepy things. And, when you can kind of feel just how, it affected them, and we're empathetic in some ways where we when somebody's crying, we start crying. When someone says, this terrified me, and then you kind of go through it with them. And so you kind of feel it too. But I thought it was interesting that he, when he said the Vatican, has been involved, he made a point to say, and I'm not Catholic, like that was a question. So I kind of wonder if that has something to do with some of the stories that he might have been told. And also, last bit, something I heard, can't tell you who it was or where, but this whole thing, I think it might have been a pope of some kind, said, sorry, I'm not very specific, but that this whole UFO thing would make us rethink our interpretation of the Bible. And so I wonder if that kind of is what he's kind of going for. Hope that made sense.
Yeah, no, that did. That made me think really, really deep. Because I know that even Tucker has said at the very end when he was on that Timcast, which was the previous one, Timcast, what is it? His podcast called Timcast IRL.
IRL.
Yeah.
Tim.
He said to the Catholic guy. I mean, I watched the whole thing. He said to the Catholic guy, "Wow, I really like what you had to say. It's really making me reconsider Catholicism." And I was just shocked by that, but I didn't include that because we were on something else. This is a whole different topic, but I was just like, no, no can reconsider Catholicism. If you're getting back into the Bible, stay in the Bible. Don't go to the catechism.
Yeah, no doubt. I need to take 5. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Peace. Meredith, what do you think?
I agree. I think, he cracks me up. These aren't men on Mars, okay? But he knows it's a spiritual component that's going on, and I think by the Vatican having such draw into it for so many years, I mean, wouldn't that make anybody think there's a spiritual component to that? Why would the Vatican have anything to do with that? What's the whole purpose there? Why do they have a telescope the size of Texas, in Arizona? I mean, these are just interesting facts that we need to understand. Why are they? It's definitely a spiritual component, and I think they're leading on more than they're saying, because there's a lot more to it, and I think they know more. Even Tucker, I know he says, "I'm not gonna," if I had facts, I'd tell you, but I think he has a few facts that he probably knows, and he just doesn't want to say at this moment until more things happen. But that's just my opinion.
Few reliable resources. I think it's interesting. We're going to see a lot more come out, so you're going to want to hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon, because you don't know what else is happening. Make sure you hit that bell icon, because it notifies you when we go live, and that's when you can stay the most up to date with this stuff, and you can be one of the 190 subscribers right now. We hit a new record. We've been at 180, 186 before, 190. Welcome to the new club. Hopefully we can get above 200 tonight. That'd be cool. And let's continue on to see what is next. I'm going to pull up my scripts here. We have, let me go down to the show outline. Okay, so Tucker Carlson, we just went to and we looked at the, oh man, we got such an amazing show. I'm not sure if we can pack it in. It might have to be next week for the next one. Tucker Carlson, Breaking Points, Tucker Carlson. Okay, now he's going to interview Grush. I never know how to say his name. Tucker with David Grush. And Tucker asked David about the spiritual battle. This was fascinating because I don't think that now Tucker's interested, and now he's going to refer to it to David, and David's going to have some interesting answers. So watch this.
Do you think, and I've read a couple, not just in this country but others, former government officials saying they believe there's some spiritual connection to these things.
Well, I think, if you were to back out to the 100,000 foot level, there certainly is a phenomenon. And how do we quantify that? Well, theologically, we can quantify that as, angels, demons, that kind of thing. Many people with religious belief systems espouse faith in that regard, and they believe that a phenomenon exists. And really what we're seeing here with the UFO UAP subject is probably just another facet of that same phenomenon.
But the conventional explanation for the U.S. government, among those who believed it was hiding these facts, the explanation for why was the government doesn't want to show panic, doesn't want to admit weakness in the face of its adversaries, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Those explanations do not account for the behavior you're describing.
Yeah, at first,
they're hiding something real that implicates them. And if they're talking to these entities, whatever they are, and I believe on the basis of evidence that the U.S. government has made contact and has had continuous or at least sporadic, but over a period of years contact, you don't need to nod or shake your head, but that is my belief based on talking to people.
Okay, so notice, just from an editing standpoint, they did not show him. They did not show Grush during that clip. I'm going to go back, and I thought that was fascinating because he's probably nodding his head, and Tucker's like, don't nod your head.
Or et cetera. Those explanations do not account for the behavior you're describing.
Yeah, at first,
they're hiding something real that implicates them. And if they're talking to these entities, whatever they are, And I believe on the basis of evidence that the U.S. government has made contact and has had continuous or at least sporadic, but over a period of years contact. You don't need to nod or shake your head, but that is my belief based on talking to people. Like, what is that?
Yeah, if there's certainly, a relationship that was cultivated with non-human intelligences, hypothetically, I guess, to play off of what you just said. Good or bad, it's almost like we were afraid after 9/11. Dirty bombs, terrorists. Okay, well, that's nature. That's life. Yin and yang of the universe. If there's malevolent non-human intelligences, okay, well, that's a fact of life. Don't hide it. Because what if the U.S. populace needs to be prepared for something someday?
Well,
hypothetically.
And it's also not their right to hide it because they don't own the government. The public does, actually.
Exactly. And it's just, I understand the reasons at first, but like you said, I think it's just the moral decay and the decay in leadership. And once again, well, we don't want to admit we did all this stuff years ago.
But also, if the U.S. government has had contact with these entities, and again, it is my informed belief that the U.S. government has had contact, what are they talking about? What is that?
Hey, I would like to know too. I mean, I grew up watching Star Trek, so I mean, I say that kind of, whimsically, but like, well, great. I mean, of my generation under 40, that's like, we're not shocked. That's cool. Like, a Gen Zer who's 18 would want to study physics if they found out this stuff was real.
Yes.
Like, this is how you boost STEM in this country, for goodness sakes. I mean, this is like the most exciting, yes, a little scary, but overall, it's exciting. I mean, nothing's happened. We're still living. I'm able to talk about this and nothing's happening, to the, the world, if you will. So I think it's exciting for young people, and I think it's the right time to do this.
Going back in history, I mean, there are all sorts of mysteries about history that we, just can't explain even now.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like it would not be surprising to learn that people 3,000 years ago had contact with these.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the works of Jacques Vallée, a famous researcher. His character was portrayed as the French character in Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Steven Spielberg. That guy exists. His name is Jacques Vallée. And he has a PhD, and he's a smart scientist, but looked at this, and there's a couple books, like Passport to Mongolia and some other stuff, I'm probably butchering the name, where he looked into antiquity, this phenomenon. So when people say, oh, it's probably adversarial technology, etc., we've been seeing the same stuff since antiquity. And this should also potentially enforce stories in theological texts, say the Bible or whatever, that people actually saw. Ezekiel's wheels, as Tim Burchett has espoused publicly, maybe that actually happened. Now, unfortunately, you're bursting maybe a worldview or a bubble for some people, but it actually ultimately it might enforce people's belief systems, because stories in the religious texts weren't fable, allegory, or whatever. They happened. And I'm not saying all of them did, but there might be evidence if we were openly and honestly studying the subject in more detail.
This is really interesting because, see, all these people start to talk spiritually about something, because I haven't seen any of these people actually reach into the Bible or actually think about the Bible or think about spirituality until this topic comes up. And that's what's so fascinating about this topic, because it becomes a catalyst for introducing the idea that there is a God into normal life. And I've had so many my own experiences just telling people, hey, this is a podcast that I do, and people are like, tell me how that relates to the Bible. That's fascinating. Let me recap what he just said here. He said, Tucker asked Grutch if it's spiritual. What kind of contact had the government had with these spirits? He says, nothing is going to happen. We're still here. Nothing's going to happen. Don't worry about it. We don't need to worry about these things. We've been seeing these things since antiquity. One of the things that I'm going to bring out in the next episode about Orion Bledsoe is he doesn't believe that it's a big deal either. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. These things they're not. I mean, this is one thing he says, and it's kind of relating what they're saying here. if you put off good energy, then good energy is going to come back to you, and good spirits are going to come back to you. If you put off bad energy, then you have bad spirits. Do you think these things have a mind of their own? They do. They're deceptive, and and in the next sentence, he's like, well, you know, they have been deceptive, and they have done some strange things. They do have a mind of their own. Which is it? Which is it?
Yeah.
So, and I find it also fascinating. I see Tucker. He's listening to YouTube because I don't know if he's heard the spiritual ideas of this stuff, maybe from this podcast, but there's another podcast called, and I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't want to give too much away, but it's the phrase he used in this. It was, I won't give the name of the woman that runs it, but it's Mysteries with a History. And so I see that he's really diving deep. He's trying to figure out exactly what's going on because mainstream media is not giving it up. And so he's going to his sources and going to other places on the internet probably to find it. And so that was seen by some of his verbiage. What do you guys think about this? We're going to go into a Joe Jordan clip after this, but let's go with Meredith first. We're going to go the opposite way this time.
It's mind-boggling. Like Wendy said, just to see them relating things back and forth with each other, and like you said, pulling out the Bible and all the aspects of the spirituality of what's going on, and they're really searching. They're trying to find what's going on with all of this that's happening. But what's sad is they're searching all the wrong places.
Yeah.
You know, if they would search the Bible, and I think maybe Tucker is to a point, but he's still reaching out to the world a little more. But then I pray that he does reach into the Bible even more, and so that God shows him. But reaching in the Bible, you will definitely find out exactly what's going on and exactly who these entities are, which we know as, you know, fallen angels, demons. So
100%. Sarah?
I noticed that in every interview or every video you've shown so far, Tucker brings up the word spiritual. It's spiritual. I'm just certain of it. And I agree with Meredith that, you know, he really should then take it to the author of all this spiritual stuff. But it feels like it's like they're teasing and dropping a lot of hints, like similar to earlier. Oh, there's something big. It's almost like and not that this is a bad thing. It could be good or bad for good or bad reasons, but it's like they want to get more people interested in seeking this out, whatever it is, you know. They just, whether it be the spiritual aspect or the alien aspect, they want more people to be interested in this. So it could be to sell books, or it could be for people's benefit. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think it's very fascinating because he, along the same lines, he didn't actually ever say he thought it was demons. He didn't actually ever say that it was bad. He inferred it, and I truly do believe he thinks that because of the verbiage that he used, and people try to pull it out of him. But he's very careful in saying, yeah, it's definitely spiritual. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Wendy, what do you think?
I think similar to Sarah here. I was thinking, I wrote down the word spiritual. It's like spiritual is the safe word that's not going to get them in trouble. Because I'm sure Tucker still wants to have audiences with people that disagree with him.
Yeah.
Grush, I know you'd had on here before a clip where Grush was talking about the phenomenon, and then he's saying, well, yeah, it definitely is going to rewrite everyone's prior beliefs from, you know, the Bible and all this. But then you have Tucker saying, oh, yeah, it's spiritual, and I know there's a lot of components here that are, you know, spiritual in nature. And then Grush is like, oh, yeah, many people refer to it as angels and demons. And it's like, it's just weird. It's weird how they're talking about God and the demons, but they don't want to. You know, it's just let it out. Just say it. Come on, we're all waiting. It's a little painful.
It is.
But I don't know. I appreciate that Grush is willing to talk with Tucker about these things, and, you know, he's not bashing him for having a different view, which is nice. I think Grush has made it pretty obvious that he's more intellectual and not willing to, you know, cross the gap and say, yeah, okay, God's involved. But I don't know. I'm glad Tucker's trying, little by little. Maybe he's doing the leak method where little by little he'll tell people, yeah, okay, finally, it's demons, okay. So,
which is interesting.
Point.
Sorry, I walked on you. What did you say?
I said we'll just keep watching and hope he gets to that point.
Yeah, 100%. I hope so too. I think it's interesting. The words you said, they're leaking a little bit. I don't know if he's, people in here in the chat, I've seen him mention, they say, isn't Tucker Kabbalah? And we've talked about that previously. I think he has been wearing the red thread around his wrist, and we've seen that before. I don't know. Maybe he was just doing a fad. We've seen celebrities do that, where they throw up a sign or cover one eye, not because they believe they're in some society, but because they see other people doing it. Other people have. Maybe he was purposely doing that. Maybe it was a rubber band. We don't know. But I think what is interesting is that at least he's reading the Bible. And another factoid that I think is interesting is that there have been people that have said, matter-of-factly, that this stuff will be released before 2025, 2026. I forget the exact date. But they said this stuff is leaking out, and we're going to do it a slow roll. And we need to have it leaked out before 2025. There's a lot of people talking about 2025. I don't know why. I mean, I've heard people say 2025, 2026, but the majority, even in the cult books that have been written decades ago, everyone talks about 2025. I find that fascinating and a little spooky and a little scary. But at the same time, I think that we have a bigger God. And so that we need to hang on because something is happening here that is beyond spiritualism. I mean, it is spiritualism, but it's beyond our control. And I truly believe that this next year and the following are going to be significant. So that said, what is the truth about this whole thing? Let's dig into it further.
If you've been involved in this realm at all, you've heard the word cover-up. And it's always government cover-up this, government cover-up that. And the leading researchers themselves have agendas. And they are covering up information that they don't want you to hear, like what you're hearing from me today. After 25 years of this research, working with over 600 plus cases of abductions, we have found that the name and authority of Jesus Christ and a personal relationship with him can not only stop this experience, but terminate it as a life pattern. This gentleman that we had taken his testimony, he said that he had called out in the name and authority of Jesus Christ, said, Jesus, Jesus, help me. And experience abruptly stopped and he woke up in bed. Well, these leading researchers, off the record, they told me that they too had come across similar cases where people had either hummed a hymn or sang a hymn or quoted scripture or something of the sort, and the experience stopped. And I said, but you guys said that this couldn't be stopped. And they said, well, their answers were, we didn't know what to make of it. And I would have been fine with that, except that they had to go and give me another excuse. And it said, the excuse was, we were afraid to go there because it might affect our credibility in the UFO research community. So that's withholding information.
Yeah, that's pridefulness too.
Yeah,
that's cover up. After 20 some years of doing this, and the Navy seeing the objects that they're seeing, and we being able to see the videos of what they're seeing, that's just given more clarity to all of this and giving more understanding to the general public that yes, something is going on.
Fascinating. Something is going on here, and it's definitely spiritual. And if you can thwart it with calling out the name Jesus Christ and have a relationship with him, I think that's a huge thing. And if that's being covered up, something much bigger than us is happening. Before I move it on to I'm going to put it to you next, Wendy. I want to say one of the people in the chat Thank you so much for your super chat. Trevor, he says, I have been screen sharing this episode with my Meta VR big screen a lot. Interesting results. Most people come in and realize it's Christian perspective and leave the room. It is. This is a hard topic because not only is it a very niche thing to talk about, but we're also taking the hardest way to talk about it because it is definitely going to be the most interesting and the most truthful in the end. And I've talked to many people about that, and that's why I've seen podcasts that go along the exact same thing. They're UFO podcasts. They were started right when this podcast was started. They have 3 times the subscribers because 3 people are more fascinated with it being extraterrestrials than the Bible. Mm-hmm. Sad, but it's true. And most Christians are not wanting to talk about this. They'd rather just go to church and not realize and not think about there's actually a spiritual battle, and it's physical. And you need to be very aware of it because lots of people are going to be caught off guard. That's why we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it at church. So many people are not talking about it, and it's very important to tell people about it because this is going to affect a lot of lives very soon. I mean, year and a half too. I believe it. It's going to be a big effect on people. So let me recap what Joe Jordan said and see what you guys think about this whole thing. There is a cover-up of the UFO researchers, and they are not telling you everything, he says, but calling out to the name of Jesus will stop it, and it stopped many, even 600 that he's counted. I'm going to go to you, Wendy, first. I think I said Wendy. I was going to go to you first, right?
Yeah, this actually, Brad, is probably one of my favorite clips that I've ever seen on your show. As a mom with small kids, excuse me, it's hard to, bring up the subject of aliens. Get a play date and you're like, hey, how you doing? How's it been? Oh, good. What have you been up to? Oh, there's this research group I follow a lot and spend time in, and like, oh, okay, cool. The minute you say aliens, they're like, what? Anyway, they'll just change the subject. But truth be told, you can tell them all the facts. If they hear this little bit, how can you deny the truth? Mm-hmm. Over 600 cases, not from one state, from all around the world, mm-hmm. of people who have called on Jesus, and the alien activity completely stopped. Of course it's demonic. That's the power in the name of Jesus. Nothing else can do that. Right. It says in the Bible that Satan can cast out Satan. So clearly Satan is being cast out by the bigger, stronger power. And when I have shared that little bit of information like that clip with friends, just, verbatim telling them about it, it's really opened their eyes and their ears. It's like suddenly they're willing to listen to some more of the alien facts that I've learned along the way. What I find really fascinating about it is, you said this before, is that it doesn't always work for some people. Mm-hmm. And Joe Jordan's talking about, you have to have that continued relationship with Christ, which is so important. I just kind of want to throw out this, though. In the Bible, what it says, and I wish I had the scripture on hand, but I don't. It says, those of you that call out to me with a pure heart, I will listen. And so God knows the intentions of our hearts 100%. And you don't have to have a relationship with Jesus the first time you call on him. But as you're calling on him, God reads your intentions. If you're calling on him just to see if it works, but you don't really believe, it's not going to work. Sorry, it's not how things go with God. He reads your heart and he gives you the intentions of your heart. And so if you're calling on Jesus for the first time, as a sinner, as somebody far from God, that's the prayer he's never going to turn away. If you're seeking God, he's going to answer you. And so powerful. Out of all the clips that you share, Brad, that's my favorite by and far. It shows the power of God and shows matter-of-factly who we are dealing with and how to stop it. I would tell you, even as a Christian, if I didn't have that little bit of info, going through all this alien, the NHI stuff, hearing that there's such a dark, horrible side to it all, and thinking, well, man, I don't ever want to experience that. But knowing that there's an answer, all you got to do is stay close to God and he protects you. the demons, the dark forces, there's a line they can't cross. When you belong to God, He protects you. So yeah, I love it. I love that you shared that again. And then just one quick scripture that correlates is Jeremiah 29:13, and that's the one that says, "You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all of your heart." And again, I think that's what Tucker's starting to do, or at least it seems. And I'm glad that we have the answer. Like, what happens when we seek God? The darkness flees. So, praise God for Joe Jordan and being able to share that here so often.
Praise God. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, like with what Wendy was saying, draw close to God and He'll draw close to you. And like, it's funny because everything she said, I was actually thinking a parallel to it, like the guys who were trying to cast out the demons in the Bible, and the demons were like, Paul I know and Jesus I know, but who are you? And then they beat them up and strip them. So they were trying to wield the name of Jesus, like, and I don't know, they learned the hard way.
Yeah.
But the super chat actually has a lot to do with what, like, people don't want to hear the truth. They have the tickling ear syndrome where they just want to hear, like, oh, they're going to come down and the Hollywood, ideas. They don't want to actually know that it's a life or death situation. And, it's just interesting that it would harm their credibility to actually make it about more than just little green men.
Yeah.
That's it's weird.
It is weird. And it's weird that Christians are opposed to hearing about it. I found it fascinating when Wendy said they're opposed to hear about it unless they have something to tie it to Christianity. I mean, because I imagine they're thinking, this stuff isn't real. Why are we even talking about this? But it's like, oh, you mean Jesus gets rid of this stuff? That means it is demonic. What was going on here? That's fascinating. And so I think that's why Joe Jordan's ministry is so important. C4 research, I think it is. Meredith, what do you think?
Well, I agree with both of you. It's beautiful to see that how God's power just comes in and alleviates the pain and the strife and the scaredness, the fear that people are having. God's power is strong, and I think it does come down to the intent of the heart. God knows your heart, and I've actually, when I seen an orb one night coming back from church, literally followed me all the way from church to home. That was the first thing that I said was, Jesus. I didn't know what it was because this was before the show. This was before I even knew anything. I just said, if this is not of you, Lord, in Jesus' name, take it away. And I mean, in a split second, it right off, like faster than the speed of light, gone. And that's another story. But anyway, I have to just say that I know the power of God, and it is real. And God knows the intent of my heart, because I was really calling on Him, because I was actually praying all the way home. So I just want to say this verse that kind of correlates with this in Matthew 7, 7 and 8. If we ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and who seeks finds, and to him who knocks and it will be opened. Jesus wants to help each and every one of us that are in need, and when it comes to this or anything else.
Praise God. Absolutely. Did you have something else you wanted to say? Oh, Wendy?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just a scripture to add in. So, sorry, where am I? John 16:33. So, in the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Meredith, I just loved that story. I mean, it was such a short little story that you shared, but what I took note in that is that you were coming home from church, excuse me, and you're praying, and you see this. So clearly, as Christians, we are not above, tribulations. Things still happen. We're, especially as the close of time comes, we're going to be tested. We're going to be put through the fire. That's the point of, strengthening our faith. And so I love that your initial response to call it to Jesus and it's gone. Amazing. I just love testimonies. So thanks for sharing that, Meredith.
Praise God. How many want to hear Meredith's testimony? I want to hear that. I mean, we don't have to be tonight, but I'd love for you to come back and actually tell us what in the world happened. I'd never heard that story before. That's interesting. So yeah, it's a happy ending too.
Amen. Yes.
So come back and tell us more in the Discord. I think that you should write something in the Discord before we do that. And if y'all want to hear that, great segue. Go to patreon.com/strangenormal and join us in the private group, the Patreon, by joining that group via Patreon. Join Discord via Patreon. That's how you get in there. So thank you all. We're going to jump into the next show. We have gone an hour over, so I think I'm going to save the second show for tomorrow. But I think that was worth it to go through this whole show. We're going to continue this whole entire episode all the way till midnight. We're going to count down until midnight. I'm not sure if we should end this and start it up again because I'm worried people will disappear. But we all need to maybe take a little break. And so what I'll do is I'm going to end it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end it. We're going to jump back in. You'll have to go back to my main YouTube channel, and you'll have to click on the next live stream, which is already prepared, and we'll see you back here in just a moment. All right, we're clear.